In this video, I want to talk about the notion of a reporting checklist. So again, I'm using the same proof report, and it would be better if you had already watched the videos about blocks and disclosures and disclosure mechanics before you watch this video. This builds on those videos. So, a reporting checklist is basically a checklist of all the disclosures that need to exist within a report. And this reporting checklist is a machine readable list. It's also readable by humans, but it's intended to also be readable by machines. So the reporting checklist rules, this is for my proof report. In this report, I'm saying that every disclosure is required. You can be more flexible. You can say that a disclosure is required, or a disclosure is required if a specific line item exists, or a specific disclosure is required if some other disclosure is present, and so forth. There's a whole battery of tests that can be run. These are all represented using XBRL in definition relations. So when you have these disclosures named, balance sheet, assets roll up, so you have names, you can refer to the disclosure. There is no notion of balance sheet in XBRL. There is no notion of a disclosure in XBRL. There is no notion of a block in XBRL. There is no notion of disclosure mechanics rules in basic XBRL, but you can use XBRL to build all of those things, which I've done. So that gives me the reporting checklist. And the reporting checklist tells you about the disclosure, whether it's required or if it's part of another disclosure or whatever. And again, you can go to the actual rule, and then you can also go, I can't in this case, to the actual disclosure. So you can basically navigate from, so I'll use this one. Here is the rule. There is the disclosure mechanics description of that, and here's the actual rule, and here's the actual block of information that contains that disclosure. So it's all connected. So, and if you think about it, the only way that a computer could actually do this if they were connected. So that's why we created these blocks and associated that with the XBRL syntax. And the block is associated with the disclosure, and the disclosure is associated with the disclosure mechanics rule, and the disclosure mechanics rule helps the reporting checklist find that disclosure, and that tells you whether you have completed your report correctly and provided all the required disclosures. So there's one other thing that this reporting checklist can do, and that relates to the agenda. So you notice that this agenda is empty. So it's empty because every required disclosure has been provided, and therefore the agenda is empty. So I think this will work. If I go in here and I do go to the create mode, and let's say I'll just delete the balance sheet. what happens is that the agenda is now populated with 3 disclosures that are now missing because I deleted them from the report. So this works in the opposite way also. When the report is empty, the agenda is full, it's populated by what the reporting checklist says the report needs to contain. As you complete those pieces, the agenda removes those items because the items have been completed. So again, it's the same rule, the disclosure mechanics rule. The disclosure mechanics rule is used to read the XBRL, find the block that contains that disclosure, and then it interacts with the disclosure, the reporting checklist to indicate whether it has been created or not. And this is leveraged by the software in this agenda. And that's how the software can help the user create a report. So I'm going to stop there now. I think I'm going to do another video on the agenda specifically.